So the report, and I've tried to read most of it, there's a lot of it out there, as I'm sure you have, but the government's been given a 5-year time frame to essentially rebuild the aged care sector. Do you think it can be done in that time?
Well, I think we can do lots of things in that time. You must remember that Australia organised itself on a defence footing in World War II. I mean, we can do all sorts of things when we want to do it. I think it's a matter of the political will. And I think it's actually very important for people that are watching the show this morning that have had experience of aged care to write to the various politicians that are involved, the Prime Minister, Treasurer, obviously, and Health Minister Hunt. I mean, just write a letter and say, look, I want the reform to happen, because I think what is at the core of all this is that we have sidelined older Australians. And you might remember it was in fact the Commissioner Briggs who said that she thought that ageism was deeply at the heart of what's going on here. I mean, we won't accept these sort of things happening in childcare. In fact, that area has been reformed in recent years, because you might remember that years ago, Peter, you'd turn on 60 Minutes and see some horror story about a childcare place. Well, we got that improved, and we are looking at aged care now, and I think we have to make sure that we get it right. And the most important thing to remember is there's a lot of self-interest in this. I mean, what I'm discovering as the Chief Advocate of National Seniors is just how many people end up in aged care or needing care. And I mean, it's about 55% of women and around 45% of men will need care. So I think it's very important to recognise that it's not about those people over there. It's actually about you and me, and obviously the self-interest factors there. And also what we have to recognise is that just how frail people are when they go into aged care. So this is now not a lifestyle choice. I'm going into a nursing home or I'm going into a care home. It's nothing to do with retirement villages or retirement homes. It's actually it's end of life. 40% of people that go into aged care die within the first year. So these are very, very frail people, and half of them have dementia. Now recognise that requires specialist training, specialist nursing.
We've all got a stake in this, Ian. So a lot of talk this morning about a 1% levy, because that is one of the recommendations that has come out of the report. It's how we're going to fund it, because this is going to be incredibly expensive. I'm not sure if you have a figure in mind on what it's going to take to basically rebuild aged care, but do you support this 1% levy that we all have to pay, similar to Medicare?
I think what we've got to do first, and this is the thing that I think the Royal Commission, initially didn't turn its mind to, but did towards the end, is actually how is the money being spent? You have to have value for taxpayers and value for the resident or the care receiver. If you look at the home care packages at the moment, which is what National Seniors is advocating for, more home care packages in particular, there are 100,000 people waiting for a package. But when you get one of those packages, if most of the money is chewed up in fees and charges and administration, which is what we are hearing and many people are hearing, if you throw, let's just say $5 billion extra at aged care, and half of that goes straight through to the people that are running the care package, is that worthwhile? No, it's not. There should be forensic analysis of how that money gets through to the care recipient. Okay. The same thing with the aged care homes. One of the big providers a couple of years ago had to pay back $157 million to the tax department because of the way they'd structured their business.
Okay, so do you think that levy is something you would support, or you're just not sure about it at this stage? It's too early.
Well, look, what I know is that if you look around the world, the OECD countries, Australia spends about half on aged carers, for example. Other countries like Holland, for example, just picking a country that's got a smaller population and a better aged care system. So we know that more money has to be spent. Now, you can do that out of general revenue because that's how we do things there. But with Medicare, we do that because we want to make sure that we have a good health system in Australia. And I think most Australians say, look, if I have a heart attack or I fall over and I need an ambulance, I get taken to a hospital and treated straight away. Aged care is becoming like that because what tends to happen now is people go to a hospital, and then they go to an aged care home because it's usually triggered an event. They may have had some event that triggers that. So you've got to recognise that it's part of the health system. Interestingly enough, the Prime Minister made Greg Hunt, the Health Minister, the Minister in charge. So it's quite possible that Greg Hunt will be sitting down with the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, and saying, look, we've got to fix this quickly. What's the quickest way to ensure we've got the money? That may be an increase in the Medicare levy.
Yep, okay. Maybe an increase of the Medicare levy. All right, Ian, we're almost out of time, but there's a couple of questions I want to squeeze in. We've spoken about the home care packages quite a few times on this program, and you did mention there is a backlog at the moment of 100,000. The hope is that needs to be cleared by the end of the year. That's according to the report. Can that be achieved, or do you highly doubt that?
Look, anything can be achieved with political will. Now, let's think about it. At the moment, the people who are being trained as aged care workers, you can get this with a 6-week certificate course. So we're saying that you need to have much more training. And in fact, let's just say, for example, we rolled out some 6-month training courses across Australia, and you put an aged care training centre in each state and large country town across Australia, and you put 100 people in there today and said, right, you're going to be screened, and out of that we'll pick out the best that suit it, and we'll train you and we'll have you trained. So at the end of 6 months, you could have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, depending on how you scaled it. But you have to have a system. You can't just let the market sort it out. I mean, the Commissioner Pagoni said, this is not a market. You know, it's not like selling hamburgers or any other market that's there. It's part of the health system. You have to train people. We did it in the 1970s with schools when there was a baby boom. You remember when the babies were coming through from the baby boom, and we built kindergartens. We trained kindergarten teachers. We trained teachers. We had them on bonded training programs. They spent some time in the classroom, some time in the school. We did the same thing with nurses. We had wings of nurses living at hospitals, being trained. We did all that. So let's just accept the fact that it has to be fixed, and you need to train it, and government will have to play a role in it. Don't just leave it up to the private market. It's not one of those things where you turn the wheel and it says market forces will sort it out. Market forces have got us to where we are today, and that's why you've got to question everything about the system that exists today, rebuild it, throw away the act, build some training centres, and actually get it done. And if you don't get it done, if you do not get it done, then it will come back to bite the government politically, and it will affect each of us socially.
Okay, Ian Henschke, always good to get your thoughts. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon, Ian.
Thank you, Peter.